New York City Council race for the 9th Council District. We welcome all of you to this program, and we hope that you get a better sense of the candidates that will be seeking your vote on primary election day, which is June 27, 2023. The council members are, of course, the legislative makers for the city of New York. There are 51 council members, and each normally serves a 4-year term. Of course, because of redistricting and the census, the term of office for this election and the previous election is 2 years. Council members, as stated in the voter's guide, introduce and vote on bills, negotiate and approve the city's budget, monitor city agencies, make decisions about the growth and development of our city, and provide support for their constituents. Our president and founder here at National Action Network is the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton. Chairperson of our board of directors is the Reverend Dr. W. Franklin Richardson, who's the senior pastor of Grace Baptist Church in Mount Vernon, New York. Dr. Richardson is also the board chair to Virginia Union University and president of the Council of National Black Churches. I'm Michael Hardy. I'm a resident of the 9th Council District, and I am the General Counsel and Executive Vice President for National Action Network. The basic procedure for tonight will be 2 rounds of questions by our questioners. Each will have 1 question in each round. We will then take questions from the audience. However, the audience questions, of course, will be on the index cards, and we will select those questions that reach the broadest topics. We ask the questioners and the candidates to be concise in their question and answers. We always ask and demand that everyone be respectful of everyone else. Of course, the 9th Council District covers a large swath of central Harlem, pretty much stretching from Central Park, coming south from Central Park north to about 165th Street, east to the river, and west along Convent Avenue, with dips and turns along the way. I will be presiding over the discussion this evening. Our questioners will be the Honorable Derek Perkison. He is the NAN Crisis Director and New York State Coordinator. He is also a member of Community Board 10. The Reverend Dr. Malcolm Bird, pastor of Mother AME Zion Church in the great village of Harlem, and one of the oldest historic churches in the nation, and NAN's New York State Director of Operations, Dawn Jones. I don't know if she made it up yet, but she will be part of this as soon as she can join us. NAN is a member of the NAN Board, Dawn is a member of the NAN Board of Directors. She's also the head of the New York City's Chapter Political Action Committee, and she works with DC 37. Now, for full disclosure, both Dr. Bird and Derek Perkison have publicly supported Assembly Member Inez Dickens, who's one of our candidates, and Dawn Jones has publicly supported one of the candidates, Dr. Yusef Salaam. Al Taylor, of course, will say that all of you need to elect him. And I will make one promise to all of you. I will legally cast a vote for every person that is running in this election. But tonight is about you sitting in the audience, and you will be voting somewhere, and those voting in the 9th District will have a unique opportunity to know the candidates better. I've already described the procedure, and we will start by asking each of the candidates to bring greetings and give a sense of why they are seeking to become the next council person for the 9th District. I will start, well, they're both to my left, so I'll start from my far left and then come back towards myself.
Hello, family. Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming out. I want to thank Reverend Sharpton, and I want to thank NAN for hosting this. I'm so happy to be here. I come frequently on a Saturday because I get the word, and I learn a lot of history. My name is Inez E. Dickens, and I am born and bred Harlem. I'm a lifelong resident that has remained in Harlem, never left. I am uniquely qualified to run for this seat. I was asked by many members of this community to come back from Albany and come and run for the city council. I have served both in the city council, in leadership. I was the deputy majority leader, and I'm now in the New York State Assembly. The Assembly, of course, is statewide. New York City, you can concentrate on your issues, on your district. You can bring funding, and land use issues are done for your district. In the state, it's statewide, as well as it deals with, not usually housing, the city council deals with land use, but in the state assembly, they deal with the various laws statewide. I was asked to run by members, and I told them I would. I promised them that I would. Now the incumbent has chosen not to run for the seat. But I'm not running against, I'm running for my community. I'm running to represent my community to the very best of my ability. I want to thank you so much for all of your past support. And I ask you to please, please consider me ranked 1. Thank you.
Dr. Yusef Salam.
Peace and blessings, family. You know, it's always an honor to be in front of you. When I first came home from prison, after being run over by the spike wheels of justice through the Central Park jogger case, people used to say to me, "It's great to see you." And I said, "It's great to be seen." They had buried us alive and forgot us and forgot that we were seeds. And instead of a social death, I got the opportunity, just like my brothers, to emerge like a phoenix from the ashes. Because as they built that fire to consume us, they forgot the owner of the heat. They say man plans, and God is the best of planners. And when I think about all of the things that has prepared me to assume public office, to assume leadership, I think about being broken. I think about being one of those who have been close to the pain, and in fact in terrible pain. Someone who has paid the ultimate price, just like my mother, just like my brother and my sister, like many of you. Many of the policies that we have been under for decades, in fact. I'm not a career politician. This is my first time stepping up in the realm of politics, but not my first time stepping up for myself and for my people. I've been fighting for justice for 34 years, since I was 15 years old. I learned how to resuscitate my life. And the great message and value that I bring not only is being a champion for those of us whose voices have been turned down, being someone who understands the pain, because I've been where you are. I had an eviction notice on my door. I needed the services that I didn't know were afforded us that I'm finding out about right now. Figuring out why is it that people are leaving Harlem in the hundreds of thousands is not painting the full picture, when we realize the reason why we're leaving is because folks are trying to figure out whether they can pay their rent or whether they can provide for their families. I know far too well how that is because I have 10 children. My wife and I, we have 7 daughters between us and 3 boys. And so it's a tremendous opportunity, in fact, it's a dream to share my lived experiences as I run for this seat. Because this is not a seat that has Yusef Salaam's name on it. This is a seat that represents Harlem. This is a seat where we need righteous actors to stand up and be counted in the same way that the legends who lived here before did right by us. Somewhere along the lines, we've been divested of. It didn't happen yesterday. It didn't happen a year ago. We've been divested of for decades. And I'm so honored to have a different viewpoint, a different mind, different eyes to be able to put my thoughts and ideas along with the best and brightest from our community in my campaign and as I run for this office. Vote me number 1 because you deserve it. I'm old enough to do something about the conditions in my community, and I'm young enough to seek counsel from the great elders that are still here. Thank you.
So we'll get ready for our first round, and we'll kick off with Reverend Dr. Malcolm Byrd. But before we do that, and just picking up on Dr. Yusef for 1 second, I don't think we can really take another step until all of you give a great, wonderful hand for the Lion of Lenox Avenue, our Charles Wright. All right, Dr. Byrd.
Thank you, Attorney Hardy, and good evening, brothers and sisters. We further extend a warm welcome to the House of Justice, to you, Assemblywoman Dickens, and to you, Dr. Salaam. First question. This question is for both of you. What do you believe to be the greatest challenge confronting our community, and how would you go about finding a solution? What do you believe to be the greatest challenge in our community, and how would you go about finding a solution? We'll start with you, Dr. Salaam.
You know, a lot has been said about the things that we need. And I find that the greatest challenge in our community that's facing our community, although we need all of the services that we have been asked to get, things like affordable housing, which will give us an opportunity to plan for the future in safety, with certainty, without worrying about whether we're going to have to leave the place that we are building up for our families. But the thing about it is that we desperately need to believe ourselves again. We need government to step in. I mean, there's no doubt that we need government to be righteous actors and to do the jobs that we hired them to do. But we also need to step up in our own individual lives to believe again. I found out while I was in prison that there was this thing called Sankofa. And the memory in Sankofa reminds you that you were born on purpose and with a purpose. That you who have been divested of, who are waiting for the government to do right by you. Many of you haven't even participated in the process of voting. You've said they're going to steal your vote. You've been jaded by the whole experience. And the truth of the matter is that every single thing we see is enacted through the voting process. The very buses that we need to bring us back and forth from downtown back to uptown. We rarely see them at Harlem. The fact that we have congestion, overwhelming congestion in our community. Nobody is doing smart enforcement of the law. Just today, as I was on my way up here, I had to jump out of the way because someone who was delivering food to a patron was speeding down the side of the sidewalk. And we need all of the services, don't get me wrong. But the way that you remind people how to get what it is that they need is to remind them who they are. Because once we remember who they are, we will never, ever allow ourselves to be placed in the NAT box. That scientific study that they did years ago, where the gnat only believed it could jump so high because it was placed in a box, is the same reality that I faced when they told me and my family that we should be put to death for a crime we didn't commit. We had to break out of the gravitational pull of all of that negativity to find self-value and self-worth. And when I tell you, as I look around my community and I speak to my constituents, they're telling me, thank you for running. Many of them don't have money to even pay to support me. But they're telling me they're going to support me with their votes because they've been looking for someone like me for decades. And I'm honored to be here because my whole life experience is a lesson plan on how we can get all of the things that we so desperately deserve.
Attorney Harding, there's no one issue hitting Harlem. Harlem is in a crisis right now. We're in a crisis about housing. We're in a crisis about our small businesses that are closing up. We're in a crisis about health, the health disparities that occur in our district. We're in a disparity because we're coming out of a pandemic, and when the rest of the world is in a pandemic, Harlem's of America is in a tsunami. So we've got several issues that we can talk about. And I'll talk about just one of them. Because actors in a play does not secure the funding that's necessary to bring the bacon home to our community. What we need is experience and knowledge and aptitude and negotiating skills in order to save the NYCHA on 114th Street, Afel Randolph, in order to see to it that it was renovated and secured and the people returned to their homes with NYCHA rents. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the buildings. There's two huge buildings on 121st Street between Adam Clayton Powell and Frederick Douglass that I worked hard to see to it that they got out of the TIL program, were gut renovated, the people moved back in with subsidized rents, and they own the building themselves. Because we're talking about generational wealth. We're not talking about staying as a renter forever. We're talking about having generational wealth in our community. Now that means some of us are not going to own everything, but damn it, we're supposed to own something. If we don't, we will not stay in our community. It'll be taken from us right now. They're trying to move us out of our community. Right today, as we sit here listening to this, they're trying to take us out. And they do it with subterfuge and boondoggling. That's what they do. They tell us that they know better for us than we know for ourselves. We've got to talk about what has been done and what can be done. This is a system, a governmental system, and you're not going to be able to get all the help you need without the government putting funds in the district. Now, we're talking about subsidized. Well, you know what? HUD built homes, built apartments in the 70s and 80s. Well, you know what? HUD's not doing it anymore. They're not doing it anymore. I was able to secure 177 units of income targeted, not affordable. There is a difference. Affordable goes from block to block. Income targeted means in the area. 177 units of income targeted housing that goes from 40% AMI, because I was aiming for 20%, they wouldn't go for the okey doke. But I got the 40% to the 80%. The 80% allows our youth that have gone to college, gone for 4 years, and they want to come back and live in the community in which they were born, in which they lived, in which their parents lived, their grandparents, their family, and they want to come back and live in this community. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about being an actor. I'm talking about doing some work, some grind work. And I've got a legacy to stand on. I've got what I have done I can stand on. I've got a history of what I have done and will continue to do. So thank you so very much for allowing me the opportunity to just share some of the things that I have been able to do for the community.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The question I have is to the candidates: what experience or skills do you bring to the table that make you the best candidate for this job?
You know, when I think about skills required for a job like this is not politics as usual. I've stood up to people like Donald Trump, who became the president of these United States. And I don't know if y'all caught the news, but I still have been standing up to Donald Trump.
Amen. Amen.
Because of all of the atrocities that he has presented.
Well,
We're talking about a landlord who has done egregious acts and become the president of the United States in spite of his record. And when I think about what's needed in the halls of power, what's needed in the halls of power desperately is someone to take the voice of those of all of our voices who have been turned down and bring them to the halls of power, fighting for truth, justice, and equality for all of us. We cannot wait decades to enact the things that we need. We have to move in the urgency of now. We have to move as if our children's 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 life depends on it. Because we've been divested of it. Like I said, that hasn't happened yesterday or the day before that. Decades have gone by and we're talking about dilapidation. We're talking about services. We're talking about a 125th Street that looks just like 125th Street looked when I was growing up. Before they knocked Pathmark down. Folks were selling hubcaps to a bike as they were bent over in the dope fiend lane. We see the same services, or the lack thereof, because they are putting some services in our community. But we're being overrun with those services. What I submit is that we have to move in the urgency of now, utilizing new tactics and strategies, not strategies that we've already tried, because those strategies have gotten us to where we are right now. We can, we must, and we will do better for ourselves and by ourselves. And I'm guaranteeing that, because I know how to move mountains. There's a process, and yes, it takes government. Absolutely takes government. But you know what government needs? Is the pressure from the people.
oh yeah.
You know, I said that we need government, we do. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Trump, because Trump won because black people, brown people did not come out and vote. And when we vote, we win. See, because they depend upon our vote. They just tell us they don't, but they do depend upon our vote. And we let him get in. But damn it, we sure put him out 4 years later. And now he's been indicted, so they're working to try to see that he can't run again. But I don't want to talk about Trump because that's federal. I want to talk about local because that's what we're here for. That's what impacts upon our daily lives. And you know, the thing about it is we all talk about new ideas and new people. That's what we tried 2 years ago and it failed. We didn't get any resources. We didn't get any support because we were talking about new ideas and a new person that couldn't produce, couldn't negotiate, couldn't navigate, didn't know the system, and that's what it takes. You've got to know the system because you don't break it apart by standing back and say, I got a new idea. The only way you break a damn foundation is you get down in it and break it apart and do what has to be done. You've got to be able to negotiate with your colleagues because when you get down to City Hall, it's all local politics. There's a pot of funding. Nobody is going to tell you how to access any part of it because if they tell you, then they will be taking away some of their slice. And they're not going to do that. If you don't already know, if you can't get in that room, sit down at that table, know where the pots of funding are, know how to access it, know how to break it down for your community, know the agencies that's within the city, then you're not going to get it because there's a learning curve whether you like it or not. When I first went down there, I was blessed because I came from a political family, so I knew a little bit something. And so I was a little ahead of the game. But even when I went to the state, I'm still learning today, 7 years later. I'm still in a learning curve, and nobody tells you anything. So don't get it twisted. Don't be bamboozled. Don't be fooled. It's required to have knowledge. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is what dictates how you can survive in a system that's meant to tear us down and destroy us. So I'm here to say I've got that experience. I've got that tenacious attitude. I've got a fighting spirit. That's because I'm telling you I got it, but because I've exhibited and shown you exactly what I do have for the love of my community, of my blessed heart.
Thank you. Thank you. I know goodness for that. Thank you. Next question to both candidates.
Which one?
Okay. How do you plan to address the ongoing issues of affordable housing and gentrification in this district, especially in light of the past pandemic?
Do I go first, ladies? Thank you. We don't know. We gotta ask. I have addressed the issue. Now, am I going to be able to do everything for everybody? I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I am God and I can do everything. I am human. But what I am is a damn fighter. I am a person that stands before you, that you know I have produced 177 units that's going up and opening up for the people in this community right now. Not what I promised to do, what I have done. I've got Eiffel Randolph, a whole block on both sides that's been maintained with NYCHA rents. That's what we do for affordable. What you got to do to get affordable housing is be able to find out where the subsidy is. Because to make it income targeted, it needs a subsidy. Don't kid yourself. Because the cost of having and building housing is high in New York City. Whether you like it or not, it's high. And when you build or renovate, the cost is astronomical. When you build with union rates, and I'm pro-union because I have union in my family, but the truth of the matter is it costs more. In addition, the cost of supplies is high in New York. A brick 40 years ago was 35 cents. Now it's almost $9 a brick. So the cost of construction is high. So it means if we're going to have income targeted housing, then we have to accept that maybe if it's commercial space, maybe the commercial space is going to have to help subsidize those affordable units. Because the bottom line is we're trying to fight for affordable residential housing. So maybe the commercial will have to help subsidize it. And we have to face up to what we have to do. We also have to provide opportunities for ownership. That I wrote a program that I intended under the 125th Street rezoning, but the other city council members asked me to do it citywide, and I did. That required to put in funding to help with the down payment so that there would be affordability in ownership. Well, the thing crashed, the city had trouble economically, and they didn't use it, but one building was built under it, and that's on 110th Street and Manhattan Avenue. So, I mean, these are the things that you have to do, but you've got to have the knowledge about underwriting. You've got to know how you can work with the developer to demand a higher number of units with a lower AMI. Because the truth of the matter is the AMI that's utilized today is the federal level. And that includes not only New York County, but it includes a county over in New Jersey, Bergen County, which is one of the highest ranked economically counties in the northeast section. And so with that in place, and with that being the use, then that means you've got to have the underwriting understanding. You've got to have the knowledge of how you can create additional units at a lower AMI. And I have that knowledge, I have that aptitude, because I've already done it, and I will continue to do it for my community, for Harlem, because this is where I live, this is where I come from, and I want us to stay here. I fought hard for our cultures to be here. And so we gonna stay here, but we gotta fight this together. Thank you.
I'm standing because I'm used to standing on stages to present my point, my perspective. And when I think about what my colleague, if I can call Assemblywoman Inez Dickens my colleague, have said, I realize that the reason why I keep saying I'm not a career politician, the reason why I keep saying that this is not politics as usual is because much of the divestment that we have experienced that caused us to desperately need affordable housing happened when they were already in office. And I gotta tell you, it's important for us to understand that. Because yes, she has a great track record. The only track record you know of me is the Central Park Jogger case. They locked me up because I was from Harlem. They locked me up because I was black. They looked at the color of my skin and deemed me unworthy. And then Donald Trump took out a full-page ad calling for the state to kill us. I don't like to call Donald Trump's name. It doesn't do me any great, it doesn't give me a great feeling to mention him. But guess what? All over New York, and now all over the country, his name is plastered everywhere. A lot of the land grab was given to people like Donald Trump.
Well,
And I gotta tell you, when I think about what we need, I'm telling you, we don't need politics as usual. Learning how to negotiate and fight for and receive all of the things that we need, that is a challenge indeed. And when I tell you that it's not going to take the next 2 years, because it's been decades that we've been trying to get it back.
come on.
Harlem was the great Renaissance. Harlem is known worldwide. When I've traveled the world and people say, where are you from? And I tell them I'm from New York City, you got to see how they lean in. When I tell them I'm from Harlem,
Hey,
man, they light up. They're like, the crossroads of America? The place where Langston Hughes came? The place where, in this time right now of Pride Month, I'm going to give him his doctorate. Dr. James Baldwin said to be African American is to be African without memory and American without privilege. We are still experiencing the oppression of white supremacy, white male dominance. And I'm telling you, politics for me has always escaped me years ago because I felt like they were using what we called in our community, we call it tricknology.
Well,
They called it politics. And I'm not saying that they are not righteous actors in the playing field. They are. But what's the best thing that we can do right now? Assemblywoman Dickens' seat is not up for re-election. When she was called by her people to run, I was looking at the reports. She was called because there was someone in the office that was not doing right by us.
Ooh, wow.
And that person is no longer here. They're here, they're not running. So that really means that they really not, it's kind of been like an absentee leadership role that we've been experiencing, and we're trying to figure out how do we get that back. And I'm telling you,
My God.
when I think about affordable housing, yes, we need deeply affordable housing. I'm not 100% sure, but I think my research has shown that the federal government has pulled in places like Westchester and Rockland County as a part of the federal AMI, which raised the federal level to $80,000 a year, saying that this area right here, the average income is $80,000 some dollars a year. When the true AMI in our district is closer to $30,000.
Preach.
And so how do we get affordable, how do we deal with the affordable housing crisis? We got to protect
Well,
all of the units that we have, including the ones that Assemblywoman Inez Dickens has provided us. But we need to protect all of them, all of the NYCHA ones, all of the affordability that we already have. We need to protect them. We need to provide subsidies so that individuals who are in need get the opportunity to go into home ownership programs through Section 8 and things like that. And guess what we really need? We need to build deeply affordable housing. And the only way we can get there, it takes money, yes, but the only way we can get there is that we got to incentivize the developers that when they come into our community, and I was corrected the other day by our Assemblywoman. And when I was corrected, I thought about her correction, and I said, wow, I like what she said. Because what she said to me was, when I said we need to create a community benefits program, she said that's not enforceable after a certain number of years.
right.
So you know what we need to do with our community benefits program moving forward?
Well,
Is ensure that it is enforceable for years to come, way after the expiration comes. Some of it is me learning on the job. Like I learned that on the job. And I'm using it because I'm trying to explain to you how we have to do this. We've got to move forward like this. It's important.
that man's smart.
And so that's,
That man's smart.
I'm just thankful for having the, I didn't need to come out of private life into public life.
Right.
I really didn't need to do
Come
that.
on and preach. Come on and teach.
The reason why why I came out of private life into public life is because when I was in Albany the last time, I heard a young group of men saying we lift as we climb.
Some of you may have seen the head of our political action committee and one of the questioners tonight, Dawn Jones. She just joined us. So we're gonna have Dawn come and ask her first question for this round, and then we'll finish the second question.
Come on, Dawn.
Greetings, House of Justice. My question would be, some of you all probably know I moved from Lenox Terrace to Stryvers Row. I'm now in Esplanade Gardens. And I would like to know, first of all, the candidates. We've had issues with capital improvement as far as when you were elected to the city council, the assistance that you've given us. We actually had a housing forum where we had the HPD commissioner, but we really have not gotten the help in Esplanade Gardens. And secondly, your position on the West 145th Street development.
At Esplanade, with the Esplanade, when I was in the city council, that was in my area, and I did come to every meeting. I met with most of the residents. I came to the board meetings, and we worked hard to try to see to it that what was happening was reversed. However, there is a severe problem in the Esplanade that I was told by the current assembly member, which is Al Taylor, that there is a infrastructure issue in the parking lot, in the garage. And yes, and it was Assemblymember Farrell that explained it to me, that he had had a study done and that the billions of dollars that it was going to be required to completely take down that wall and that whatever holds up the garage down under the river he was not ever going to be able to get that funding that was necessary. And I asked him at that time what could be done, because this is a problem that's repetitive and keeps happening. Now there's some other issues that's come up, I understand, from Al Taylor that's going on in Esplanade. And I really am not up on it because Al said that was his district and he wanted to take care of it. And I'm not throwing him, I'm just saying that I did not overstep his boundaries when he asked me not to, because I stayed in my district and he wanted to take care of his. But I did make some few suggestions to him to see if I could be of assistance in what is going on in the walls, and the water coming down, even in your pool that couldn't be used for so long. There's some serious issues going on at Esplanade. So, and I recognize that, but it is going to take money. It's going to take funding, and it's going to have to come down from the federal government. And yours is an ownership at Esplanade. So that also makes it an issue when you own, because that impacts upon the type of mortgage that can be gotten in order to do the work that's necessary. So I'm not going to tell you that I'm up on everything. Just I am up on a few things, because actually some of the residents in the Esplanade do call me up and ask me for some suggestions and some help when they go to meetings with Al Taylor. So, but I'm acutely aware. Now, what was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
145th?
West 145th Street development.
The 145th Street development, I support. What I would have done is negotiated differently. But I support it. We need that housing, but it needs to be income targeted housing. It's terrible and awful that it's now being used as a truck stop and buses when our community has so much asthma, heart failure, hypertension, and this is a residential area. Not this block, but this is a residential area that's impacting upon us when they have these things over here idling. And so that he was dead wrong on doing.
Absolutely.
There's nothing, I mean, you can't make no excuse about that. But the bottom line is that it should have been negotiated differently. It should have gotten additional, which now he put in because the incumbent now said that she would support it. But because there was some additional income targeted units that were put in and a community center was committed to. But the truth of the matter is that it shouldn't have been turned down from the beginning. It should have been negotiated, because that's what it takes. It takes negotiating with the developer to let him know, I will say no. I will say no if you don't do ABC. But you've also got to understand the underwriting so you don't kill it. Because you want it to be there, because right now, we got a truck stop there instead of some housing being built. So, I mean, obviously that's not the way to go. That's a fact. That's not pie in the sky. That's factual. We got a truck stop right there, right now, because we said no. Well, I don't say no. I say what I want for my community. My community has said they want ABC, then that's what I'm going to tell them. My community wants ABC. I may not get ABC, but if I get AB and half a C, then I'm going to take that, because I don't want them to put a truck stop in the block that impacts upon the health of my community. So yes, I do support housing going there. I do support that.
But he don't want to bend.
You know, what's interesting about the Esplanade? Esplanade is actually near and dear to my heart. I don't know if y'all know this, but that was one of the first jobs that I worked when I came home from prison. Harlem Fight Back ensured that we got an opportunity to work in the development when we took out all of the windows. I was one of those individuals. I still got the cuts on my arms to show, because when one of the foremen were there, and he was telling us that we had to take all of the glass out of the old windows so that they could take the aluminum and recycle it. I don't know if y'all got that money. And I'm gonna say it like that, and I'm saying that for a reason, right? Assemblywoman Inez and I, we see eye to eye with this particular issue. My mother told me years ago, if you really want to know what's going on, follow the money.
Where?
And I'm telling you why I'm bringing that up. It's because it costs so much to shore up the issue of repairing that wall after Sandy, after the crisis with COVID and all. I mean, all of the things that depleted our resources. But you gotta remember, we weren't being supported in the first place. They say taxation without representation is tyranny. So we weren't being supported. We were paying our taxes. And when they looked at what was needed to repair, they said it's going to cost too much. I don't know if y'all are into projecting yourselves into the future. I had to do this when I was in prison. That was the only way that I could get out. They say wherever your mind goes, your body follows.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's actually a principle of martial arts. That's the reason why a young, slim woman can flip a person like me. Because if I don't go where she's trying to make me go, I'm going to be broken. My head is going to break first. What's needed is for us to look at the fact that we have the money in the budget. The same money that they stole. And I'm saying it like that because if we are not in jail, like nobody got no warrants. I know the cameras are facing this way. The only reason I'm asking that is because just in case people got warrants, I don't want nobody photographed to be put out there. Because if you don't pay your taxes, you go to jail. So they taking our tax dollars.
Come on.
And they told us, we can't help y'all. And so we see what we see. We see the fact that we need HPD to do the job of preserving the development. Because I'm going to tell you what they're trying to do. This is why I say project ourselves into the future. They're trying to create a condition of such where they're going to have to step in and say, due to, I think the word is eminent domain, we're going to have to take this property.
Yes. Come on.
I don't know if y'all seen waterfront property, but that is waterfront property.
Literally.
That's not like Florida waterfront property, but that is all waterfront property.
Right.
They will take that property
Facts.
and they will fix it themselves after we get out.
Yep.
Because that's their plan.
That is the plan.
We cannot look at this like we're playing checkers. I'm telling you, we're playing chess and we're being played.
That's right.
Assemblywoman Inez and I, we see eye to eye on this particular thing, I'm telling you. And with the 145 project,
Okay.
Tell it.
Come on.
Tell it.
how shocked are we really that the developer
Come on.
will say, well, I don't gotta follow what it was that I was trying to do in the first place. I'm gonna just smack y'all in the face and put a truck stop there in a place where there's the highest level of respiratory illnesses. So even though I also would not have walked away from the negotiations without getting something. But the fact that we got more problems, I can't wait to see the way that we can negotiate for our futures in the urgency of now. Because Harlem deserves to be a green beacon for the rest of the nation, starting right here in Harlem. We need the opportunity for those developers that are coming in to work with us, because guess what we need also? We need jobs.
Come on.
And we can get those jobs given to us first. Because we are the ones who can work in our community. And what sense of pride it will be for us to take a brick and put it into the space and then step back as this development is being built. And we're walking down the block with our children and perhaps our children's children as we age, looking at this development with pride, saying, look at what I built. Look at what I helped. Look at the ownership that we have in our community. And so, do we need what would have been here, negotiated differently, that addresses the deep affordability that we need in our community? Yes. And we have a whole bunch of other empty lots where we can utilize the same process moving forward. We gotta move in the urgency of now. We can't wait. And now doesn't mean today or tomorrow, but now does mean that we start the process, which is what I call movement building.
Thank you. Thank you both for that. One of the biggest challenges in Harlem and in many urban communities, urban black communities, is that our landmarks are disappearing. The stage you're sitting on right now is perhaps the most famous stage associated with civil rights in this country.
Right.
This is the House of Justice.
Right.
More, that deserves a hand, that's right. There have been more prominent persons on this stage. Parents who've lost their children, victims of violence, captains of government and industry have been right on this stage.
Amen.
As a second part to Ms. Jones's question concerning this 145th Street development plan, would you support any measure concerning this plan that would cause the House of Justice to be torn down?
Can I, before we answer your question,
I would like to know.
disappeared or rebuilt?
Its current composition torn down.
Jesus.
Current composition, not rebuilt, that same stage. What do you think?
So the question is,
That's just enough.
would we support a plan that will include the current House of Justice?
Yes.
being
Yeah,
torn down?
precisely.
And I gotta tell you, the reason why I'm saying this way, the reason why I asked that question is because I'm looking at the House of Justice. And this is iconic.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
And I remember where we were when I first came home from prison. On Fifth Avenue, between 124th and 125th. I remember we were there. And the reason why I'm asking about rebuilt is because I would love to see, personally, a plan that allows for the House of Justice to be even more magnificent, to be even more pronounced. And what would be even more phenomenal is if we could take this very stage and put it in what could be. Because I'm telling you, when I've traveled the world, and when I travel and I think about even just going downtown, and I'm saying to myself, I tell my wife, look at this. Do you see those wrought iron fences on the windows on the west side, on Central Park West? She said, yeah. You see those hearts that are on the window, the wrought iron? Yeah. I said, do you know that those are Adinkra symbols? That is the symbol of Sankofa. That proves that we were here and we built this whole place up. And when I look at the windows that are there, they probably don't even have to worry about affordable housing because they organize themselves in such a way that it doesn't go up and down. There's no rocky road to their existence. But for us, they've given us crumbs. Just like when we fought the city to be made whole. Each of our lawsuits were $50,000. That means that we were gonna, if we prevailed, we would have gotten $50,000 each, which would have been $50 million. I saw the face, he was like, $50,000, that's not negotiating right, brother. $50 million each. $250 million total was the original lawsuit. They gave us crumbs off the table and told us really to get out of here. They thought we were gonna go. They thought that the money that they were gonna give us, which didn't include any money for our families, for our mothers, for our brothers and our sisters who were also run over by the spike rules of justice, they thought that we were gonna just disappear into the fabric of life, being made content. But here I am. And I'm here because although I would love to see the House of Justice remain as it is, I know that there's a vision that the great Reverend Sharpton and the community here at NAN have that far exceeds what we currently see. And if that vision was included in any future development, and they brought this stage along with it, I'm sure there wouldn't be any problems. But if they disappeared the House of Justice from our community, that would be perhaps an act of war.
Dr. Bird, I believe the question was, if this was to succeed, the 145, would the House of Justice be a primary focus that it would remain? Was that the question? All right, I thought it was. Very shortly, the House of Justice was already incorporated into the design of 145. Let's get to the bottom of it. Short answer. In addition, there is and will be a civil rights museum was already incorporated into 145. So, I mean, that's the answer. I don't have to go into a whole lot of rhetoric about something else. The bottom line is what is, and that's what it is. The House of Justice is already incorporated into it, and it's there. And I will tell you, that's why I let you give the answer. I knew you didn't know, so I thought I would let you answer first. Because I you didn't know, because you haven't been here for 12 or 14 years. So I was ready for that. I was waiting. But that's another learning experience, bro. But thank you.
I love this. I'm telling you, this is community right now. I can laugh at the experience and really, really appreciate it. I actually did know that the House of Justice was included in that plan. I did know. But you also said that I haven't been here for 12 years. And you know, she said, was it 14? I'm telling you, she knows how long I haven't been here. She knows exactly how long I haven't been here. And I'm gonna tell you what's so interesting about it. 7 years that I was out of this community,
Yes, sir.
I was locked up state for a crime I didn't commit.
Thank God you didn't have to go to Rikers, because that was terrible.
I went to Rikers. I was at Rikers. And they sent me to Rikers after they convicted us. And they said they made a mistake because they thought that because we had turned 16, that we were supposed to go back to Rikers and not Spofford. And after being there for a little while, they said, oh, we're sorry.
I understand that.
Let me bring you back. So I do know very intimately, however, about the 145 project. I've actually seen the plans. I know exactly what's going on. And the other time that I was not in this community was because I needed to, what they call in the community, the computer world, I needed a reset, which was Control, Alt, Delete. And when I did that, it gave me the opportunity to see things for how they really were. And when I tell you, being back in Harlem, the place that I was born, the place that I was raised as a son of Harlem, it gives me an opportunity. The reason why I described the downtown and the Central Park West, how many of those same type of buildings and apartments do we see in our community? Most of the times, when they come back and renovate our community, they chop those places even more smaller. And they want us to say thank you. And so it's a great, I'm telling you, we will be great working together. Her in the assembly and me in the city council. I mean, this is a wonderful opportunity, y'all.
Let me,
Wait a minute. I got to respond to that. You know, no. Because I enjoy him a lot. The bottom line is that he's good. But what he talks is state issues.
Yeah.
And what he needs to really have thought about is running for a state seat. See, I know the city because I rock the city. But maybe he can rock the state. You know, maybe he's running for the wrong office. Maybe he needs to think about that. You know, and then we can rock this government together.
all right, so Dawn Jones is going to come with her second question. Before she does, though, I just want to make sure I understand your question and your answers. If I heard everyone correctly, and you can correct me if I misstated, what I heard everyone say is that if there is 145 development on this site, you would oppose any move by the developers to exclude the House of Justice. Is that a yes? All right. Dawn.
Thank you, Attorney Hardy. Reverend Byrd actually gave me the idea to ask this question. I am also on the board of the New Amsterdam Musical Association, and I thank you, Assemblywoman, I apologize, I'm using gender, I stand corrected. Assemblywoman Dickens, for the proclamation that you awarded us. That area between approximately 132nd, you can correct me, to 135th is historical landmark. However, there are not ground signs times, like you see at Convent Avenue where I go to church, and Convent Avenue, Hamilton Terrace. So would, you know, when you go back to the city council, for questions for both of you, would you all designate that a landmark area? And also, you may see facade in front of the building, and would we get assistance in preserving the New Amsterdam Musical Association, because it's been in the community for over 100 years?
All right, and before you answer, because we want to make sure that we bring the community into the discussion, if you can give a very quick answer to that.
I've been blessed to fund the New Amsterdam, and I've been there, and it's still got phenomenal jazz going on there. I just want to thank you for that. But it's important. Yeah, give it up, because New Amsterdam rocks. New Amsterdam rocks. It's important that we preserve the facade. Now, there's two things with landmarking. One is a historic district, and the other is landmarking the building itself. So if you're talking about landmarking the building, then there's a different process. But it also involves, don't forget, the community board has to be a part of that decision making, and part of that, you've got to get them to agree to it first, and then it goes to the city council. But yes, I support that, because I'm very familiar with Amsterdam.
Yes, thank you.
Amen. Merry Christmas.
Ditto.
All right, so if I'm not mistaken, it's about 7:15. So we're coming to you guys with your questions. We want to try to get through as many of them as possible. So I'll ask the candidates to be as concise as possible, but thorough in your answer. And if we step in and move it along, it's only because we want to get as many of the community questions in. And let me also just say this off the top. At the beginning, and all of you were not here, at the very beginning of the forum, we addressed this because this was a question that came in from somebody in the audience. And the question is, why are two Inez endorsers, donors, moderating this forum? Well, first, they are not. I'm moderating the forum. That's number one. Number two is we were very clear at the beginning, and again, this is National Action Network, and you got tons of employees here, and of course they all have their own individual lives. You can't control everybody's practice. However, they are simply asking questions. They're not bringing their politics or anything into this, and we disclosed that yes, there are two of our members that are participating tonight, one of whom publicly endorsed Inez, the other who gave a donation to Inez, and we also made it clear that Dawn Jones is one of the questioners tonight, and she is a supporter of Yusef Salaam. So let's just take that. That is not an issue. And of course, you can tell by the questions, there's no preferences in the questions. So I just want to make sure I just knock that out. All right. Al Taylor is in Albany, I was told.
Yes, Al Taylor says he has a bill that's I'm sorry, thank you. Assemblymember Taylor, I was told, called down to NAN to say that he has a bill up. I stayed there until early this morning, very late last night when I drove down, and that's because I was able to vote on the issues that were impacting upon my community. Things that were coming up earlier today was really about the villages upstate, and it wasn't quite as important to me as when we're voting on something downstate. But I understand that he has something coming up possibly tonight, and we're supposed to stay originally till Thursday, then they changed it to Friday, and that's why he didn't know, because he was basing it upon Thursday being the last day. Now, I just got a text coming in that we'll be there till Sunday.
Yeah.
So I'm going back up as soon as this is over. I'm driving right back up as soon as this is over.
All right. Okay. So This is a question from the audience. This is the first question, and one that we really haven't addressed yet, so that's why I pulled it first. And the question says, what plans do you have, if elected, to help our youth?
You know, our youth programs have been destroyed. And youth programs not only help with getting employment and provides a safe haven, but for instance, right across the street, diagonally from here, is Street Corner Resources. And I fund them overwhelmingly. And they're dealing with the youth. And they have that place right across the street. They also have a place on 140th Street, right in the middle of where there's frequently problems between Adam Clayton Powell and Frederick Douglass. They also have a place at Lenox Avenue, and they were able to get many of that at either no rent or very below market rate rent. I also fund GoSo. That's another program for youth. My nephew has a program that he's in charge of citywide with 44 sites that he wrote the program and got the city to fund just for our youth from ages 14 to 24, because that's the critical time we need to bring our youth in. And actually, he's saying we need to bring them in younger, but in any case, and he's been getting quite a bit of help from Corey Wise, because he's been going and speaking with the young people at these various sites that he's in charge of. I also do Harlem Mothers Save, which deals with both the parents and the children that are left devastated because they lost a sibling. So I've been fighting for youth programs. Now what I've also been fighting for is to try to get programs back into the night shifts like they used to be. See, they used to have youth programs and senior programs in the night shifts.
Right.
They stopped funding that.
Right.
And so, but the thing is that we have to get together, and I can't just say, you know, you gotta make a deal. Because you can't go down there and say, oh, I just want it for Harlem. Because you won't get any other member to support that. You've got to be able to go in there and make a deal and say, all right, we're going to put 2 in Harlem, and we're going to put 2 in South Bronx, and we're going to put 2 in Queens, and we're going to put, that's how it works. It's about making a deal.
Every borough. Yes.
Absolutely. You know, also, in addition to all of that, I think that we need to make sure that we work with the employees that are working in our community right now. Because when I'm thinking about the question, I couldn't help but think that the question has a lot to do with the crime that's happening in our community.
Right.
And the fact that our young people are being forced into becoming professional shoplifters and things like that.
Exactly.
And so the services that we need that have been pulled out of our community, that we need back in our community, has to include things like working with the people who own businesses to figure out how can we get, like, listen, when Starbucks came to 125th Street, we called it the Magic Johnson Starbucks. If any of you have read my book, Better Not Bitter, there's a photograph of me with a barista smock on and a barista hat that says Starbucks on it. Mm-hmm. I was one of the individuals that worked in that Starbucks on 125th Street in Lenox Avenue. They gave me an opportunity. And what we're talking about is opportunities, because when young people don't have any services in our community, all of those services have been taken out because it's part of the plan to make us the machinery and the oil of the wheel of white supremacy. This is the same problem that I see when I talk about education. Because the public education in our community is so bad. But imagine this. They've already determined that they are planning how many jails to build.
Thank you, Lord.
By a child's 3rd and 4th grade test scores.
Thank you, Lord.
So there's a process that they have been working us for a long time. And we need all of the services and support that we can get. Street corner resources, I love what Assemblywoman Inez Dickens has done for them. Because guess what? They provide a service that allows us to right-size the police budget so that more services can go into the community to help us.
That's right.
Thank
Preventative
you.
measures.
Question from the audience. What is your stance on a possible federal oversight and closure of Rikers Island? Yusuf?
Okay. Rikers Island has to be closed by law by 2027.
Yeah.
My stance is that it has to be closed, and they've already started plans in place to build borough-based jails, and I am in support of that. Because although there's been conversation after George Floyd was murdered about defund the police and tear down all the jails, no, guess what? Donald Trump.
What?
We need police to provide safety in our community, and we need jails for people who are really committing crimes.
That's right.
So although Rikers Island must be closed by 2027, which I support, I also support the fact that we need to build borough-based jails throughout the boroughs so that we get the opportunity to close it by then.
Well, I support closing Rikers, but there's also a problem when we talk about borough-based jails. And that's because, for instance, when they tried to build one up there in the Bronx, in the hood, the people there said absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
And when the one that was on 110th Street, Lincoln Correctional Facility, they wanted it closed down and housing built there instead. So we have to look at that and see what we're talking about when we say build it in your community. Because how many of you are going to tell me you want it built next door to your building or next to your school? Which one are you going to tell me put it next to your school where your kids are going? You know, and so, I mean, we have to be careful about when we talk about that. Although I support closing it, it's where they're going to go. And communities do not want, they don't want they don't want the smoke shops, and we shouldn't want the smoke shops next to our homes and next to our schools. They're problematic. There's been murders in the one right on 125th Street next to the smoke, next to the coffee. You know, so I mean, there's some issues here that we really got to be honest about, and we've got to face when we decide to make a determination about what we're going to do with people that have been incarcerated, whether justly or unjustly. It's what are we going to do? And people don't want it in their communities. So we got to be truthful too. See, we can make demands, but we got to be truthful about what we're talking about when we say we want it closed. Yes, I want it closed, but my second part of my question was, well, where are they going to go? Unless you're going to release them. And since that wasn't going to be the case, then where you going to put them? And they tried it. But I'm going to tell you something else, because I'm in agreement that we need police. But in Brownsville, and many of you do not know that, but in Brownsville, they've done a pilot program. There's a pilot program where they once a week, a community organization that is about community safety. The police stand back, even though they're there, they stand back, and they let for low level crimes, not a murder, but low level crimes, the men and women that are part of that organization, and they're all got some kind of coat jacket on that tells who they are, and they go to diffuse the situation and stop young people from getting arrested for low-level crimes. And that's right now a pilot program. And in the city council, I'm going to ask for that pilot to come to Harlem.
I just want to add, because the pilot program I think is a very necessary step.
Yes.
But we also have pilot programs that we've already seen that work wonderfully.
And that was what?
Well, I'm talking about in the Jewish community. Because the Jewish community have their police officers,
They got
they got everything. And I'm saying it like that because here's an example of a program that works. And also in Brownsville, like you said, a program that we've already started, but we need that stuff now. And the borough-based jails that I'm talking about weren't based in our communities. They were planning to build those jails downtown. That's what's on record. And so, I mean, you know, the good thing about it is that we have these avenues forward. Because when I think about College Broward and the fact that we should let people go, Rikers Island, I said the name of the division. When I think about Rikers Island and why we need to close Rikers Island is because College Broward is one of the many names of individuals of why.
This question comes from the audience. What is your plan to help parents who are fighting for services for their autistic children who have turned 21?
Oh, I like that question. I like that question.
We have a trouble. Autism is just being diagnosed in our communities. When I say just being diagnosed, I'm talking about in the last 15, 20 years, they're just beginning to recognize it in our communities. And the governor has put in additional funding to help programs that target autism and also mental health issues. Now the PEF union is the union workers that deal with autism and some of the mental health. And I met with them just last Friday, and they are woefully underfunded, and because of attrition, because people are aging out of their jobs, they're not filling those positions with qualified people, or they're saying that the qualifications, they've increased them higher than they ever were before. So we've got an issue that's got to be looked at. But I met with PEP just for that, just because of the autism and the mental health that we're being focusing on now. And because the governor did put the additional funding into the budget, I met with them to find out exactly what their needs were, and they need additional staffing. They need help with that. And so I'm committed to working with them. That's why I met with them. And by the way, Dawn, that is a state issue that I'm addressing now, but I still will be able to work with PEP as I did when I was in the city council.
Amen.
Yeah. I heard somebody say that. Somebody said that's why she needs to stay in Albany. Well, no, listen.
Well, in fact, if you want to talk about staying in office, I'm qualified for federal, state, and city. If you really want to know the truth about the matter.
I love this. I love this. I mean, I really do. Because you know, when we vote for people, we vote for them to be in office. And we vote for them to stay in office. And the reason why I'm saying we vote for them to be in office and to stay in office, we don't expect after they get in office to start looking for another place to be. We want them to be in office for the term that they were in. And like I said before, the great thing about our Assemblywoman is that her seat is not up for re-election. If she does not win, she gets an opportunity to go back to work in Albany, doing the great work that we need in our community throughout the state. The thing about autism, and the thing about services that we need in our community, is that we need those services, as Assemblywoman Inez Dickens said, this comes from the state. And we need them to be trickled down for us to understand as a community how we fight for all of those services. The beautiful thing about what you're experiencing right now, I don't know if this has ever happened before. You know, this is like my first time running in politics, so I want y'all to understand this. We have an opportunity right now, and y'all see it, where we are already crossing the lines and building coalition. And so as we begin to navigate the way forward, we get the opportunity to be able to say, as Inez is in Albany, listen, we need some help down here in the city council.
Okay.
Right? Let's figure this out because we can do it together. I've talked about creating an A-team.
Dr. Salam, I'm going to
Yes.
intervene only because
No,
I'm not
yes.
on autism.
Gotcha,
So we
gotcha,
move on.
gotcha.
All right. Dr. Berg.
Here is a question from the audience. Harlem is in a fiscal crisis.
Here we go.
How do you plan to bring revenue to Harlem if you are elected and empower our community?
Here we go.
You see how she did that one, right? I have not been elected into office, but I know she has. So I know that she knows about how to do the job. But what I do know is this. We don't have the services that we are asking for. We have not had the services that we've been asking for. And some of the services that we don't have happened decades ago. And so I'm telling you, how do we get what we need? We got to fight together. Because if you want to go far, you can only go far together. That's an African proverb. But if you want to go fast and do it by yourself, you might be able to sprint 400 dash. But it's just going to be you when you look around at the end. And so, how do we get the services that we need? We got to negotiate for it. We got to know that we are not dealing with lack, but we are dealing with a state of abundance. The reason why I said follow the money is because we're paying our tax dollars already.
Already.
And somehow the same tax dollars that we are paying are not coming back to support our community. So we need to redirect that. The city's budget, and you don't have to understand this, the city's budget is a moral document, but it's also an IQ test. And the reason why I call it that is because as an IQ test, we get the opportunity to see where we have spent in the past and figure out how we can find savings for our present and our future. Right now, they have overburdened the police budget with more than enough.
More than.
Police are doing work that they have not been hired to do. We can right-size the police budget and therefore divert and find the savings that we need for all of the other services that wrap around our community. It's right there. But I'm telling you, if we continue to do what we have always done,
Thank you.
we will always get the same results, which some say is a definition of insanity. We gotta move forward. And it's about passing the baton. It's about lifting up and supporting the new people to come into office because the succession plans have to be in place. That's the only way that we can work together.
Thank you so much. Well, number one, it's the same old system. Now, if you can't work within that system, you can come up with all the new ideas you want to come up with. They gonna kill it, and they gonna dye it, and they gonna sell it off, and they gonna steal it if it's good. They'll steal it and use it in their communities. So now we gotta be honest about how we have to do this thing, because we gotta understand their system. If we can't come in there with our own system. We gotta understand theirs if we go tear it down. See, you don't tear nothing down by going in there and don't know anything. You gotta know something. Now the second thing is, if you worried about my seniority in the assembly, why do we have term limits in the city council, bro? You tell me. You know, I don't know. Because seniority, you are right. Seniority does count. You are right. Seniority does count. Without seniority, you get nothing. And that's why the white man put term limits in the city council is because we were getting to be 27 people of color in the city council. So they wanted to destroy that, so they put term limits in place. They fooled us and told us, I know better for you than you know for yourselves, and you have already had the right to term limit because you had this finger to vote. And you could vote out anybody that didn't do what you needed and vote in who you did. So you already had term limits, and you didn't need the white man to come up and tell you, I'm going to give you term limits. You didn't need that because you already owned it. And so don't be fooled about this. When they talk about seniority, but they took it away from us. They took it away from us. And they're trying to take it away in the federal level. They're talking about it on the state level. Why? Because they do not want us to have seniority. And the other thing is, this is a 2-year term. And then, I've been there. I've been trying to bring young people in from day one when I first got elected. I brought in Larry Scott Blackman. I brought in Londale Davis. I brought in a bunch of young people. I brought in Derek. I brought in a lot of young people so they could learn something about how to work the system. Not come in and say, oh, I don't like it, but I don't know how to take it down. I brought them in so they could learn how to work it to our advantage. Because that's what they do with their kids. Their kids, you go there and tell all their kids are down there volunteering and working in their offices. And then when you look around, in 3 years, they're running for office. But then when they get in office, they already know the job. And they're running rings around everybody else. Well, we got to learn to do the same damn thing. If we're really going to succeed at this thing, we can't be sitting up there talking about, oh, I got a fresh idea. We did that, done that, and it failed 2 years ago. This community got nothing. So we already learned that experience. We're not going for that okey doke one more time.
As you all know, this month, June, is Gun Violence Awareness Month. I started off the 2nd through the 4th wearing orange. I took it off, and it looked like the day I took off my orange, there was a shooting at Virginia Commonwealth University, a graduation where my younger cousin is a teacher at one of the high schools. I attended Virginia State University, so that hit home. And there's been so much gun violence throughout the city. My question to you all is what legislation in the state and the city that you would support so we can just put an end to this senseless gun violence?
You know, there was just a shooting just about 5:30 on Frederick Douglass Boulevard at Drew Hamilton. And because I saw the yellow tape, it tells me that somebody probably, unfortunately, got killed. So this is an ongoing problem. It's ongoing because of youth on youth, youth on seniors, and domestic violence. Let's not leave out domestic violence either, because that's real. That's real. And so New York State has the strongest gun laws in the nation. Let's not kid ourselves. We don't have gun manufacturers. But what we do have is a federal government that refuses to take away the states' rights so that where the states like Texas, like Virginia, like North Carolina, like South Carolina, like Florida, where you can go down and buy a gun or order the parts for a ghost gun, or you can go and send somebody down, or like they do up here, a truck goes down, picks up a bunch of them, and brings them up here and sells them on the street corner. But see, that the only way that that's going to stop crossing lines, state lines, is if the federal government goes in and stops the states' rights. And you know why they haven't been able to do it? Because the states that have those open carry and where they're manufactured, they don't want to change it because their voters, those representatives, those Congress people, their people don't want it stopped. They feel like, let them come from New York and New Jersey and Rhode Island, let them come on down here and buy the guns because it's their economic empowerment. It's their economy. We gotta understand that. And we need to try to enforce that our electeds on the federal level try to fight. And they have been doing it. They've been trying, but they've been unsuccessful because the bottom line is states' rights, at least that one, and there's a few others I can think about, that needs to be done away with so that guns can no longer be transported. It's against the law, but who pays any attention to being against the law? They come across the George Washington Bridge, they come across the two tunnels, they fly them, well, they don't fly them so much, but they drive them. And until states' rights is done away with, they're going to be bringing guns into our state. And we have gun regulations, gun laws that's stronger than any in the nation. So fight for you tell your electeds that on your federal level, and I'm talking about not just your Congress, but your U.S. senators as well.
So I'm gonna agree, and I'm gonna add this. You know, we come from a people who have been told that we're supposed to see every woman as if she's our sister, our mother, or our daughter.
Right.
We're supposed to see every male as if he could be our father, our brother, or our son. What we're talking about, in addition to having laws that regulate and help to fix the problem, the other side of the problem, the other side of the problem is that we need to find value in ourselves again.
Amen.
Because if I can see you as less than,
Yeah.
we're already calling our women out of their names. We're calling our men out of their names. We are devaluing life, and therefore it's easy to take life.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, even though we have these strong laws, we got to make sure that the services that we need in our community speak life back into the people.
Hello.
Because if they look at themselves in the mirror and they're told, you're worthless, what do they do in society? They move throughout their lives like as if they're mistakes. If they found out that they were born on purpose and with a purpose, what we see in the community would change just like that. And I'm talking about us being able to step back up. Because when the elders told me when I was 12 to pull up my pants, that I looked crazy, and when they walked away, I might have said, man, you don't know what cool is. I didn't say it to them because my mama told me to respect my elders. But when that elder said something to me, it disturbed me. Because whenever we look at ourselves in the mirror, we look in the front, we good to go. Nobody looks in the back. I could have came in here and been all like this, and nobody would have said nothing. Nobody don't tweet that photo out there. That is not Yusuf as normal as usual. But we have to be able to look at all of the sides of the problem. And we have to solve for the problem as we also shore it up with legislation. Because if the legislation is there, and we know none of us are manufacturing guns in our backyard, just like none of us was manufacturing cocaine leaves in our backyard, or marijuana plants in our backyard. But guess what? The Oliver Norths of the world were funneling that stuff right into our communities. And what they did as a response was they called it a war on drugs, which was a war on our people. We are still at war. And they're looking at the minds of our people and taking it and giving us a lower self-value that allows me to see you as somebody I can kill.
Right.
But if I see value in you as a part of the community,
Come on.
I will never take your life. We have to lift as we climb.
All right. I would just ditto both answers very quickly because I agree that on all of our levels, local, state, we need to keep the pressure on the feds with regard to the issue of the trafficking. And I think Congressman Rangel can attest that they really are the ones that control that issue because most of that is under federal law and we need to keep them more accountable on that. All right, it's almost 8 and we said we would wrap it up, so I'm going to do these last 3 questions. and these are from the audience. So the first is for you, Dr. Salam. The question is, you are called Dr. Salam. Did you receive a doctorate degree from any educational institution, and if so, which one?
Everybody knows that I'm not a doctor from an educational community or anything like that. All throughout my bio, people know that not only did I get an honorary doctorate, because they said that I've been doing the work. They looked at how we were moving in society and said, we want to honor you and give you an honorary doctorate degree. So I didn't get my doctorate by going to school. I went to jail. For 7 years, I worked on myself. And for the rest of the time, even now, even right now, people ask me, what do you consider yourself? A caretaker of people's souls. Because when I tell you that we need righteous actors in all levels of government, in all of the things that we do, to get stuck with the mistake of thinking that I got a doctorate by going to school when I went to the school of hard knocks is a travesty. And I'm going to say this too. I did receive a Lifetime Achievement Award from President Barack Obama.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Salam. All right, Assemblywoman, you like this again, a question from the audience. You like to speak about your real estate background and experiences as a landlord. But with so much power in the hands of developers stacked against the people, why should Harlem want to add another real estate tycoon to the negotiating table?
Well, number one, if anybody knows me, and I've been here for, my family been here for years, and I do not deny that we've had real estate. We're not real estate tycoons, but we're a family-owned business that has believed in generational wealth for not only ourselves, but for the rest of this community. I don't run from it. I embrace it, and my family has tried to bring others along by giving them loans when nobody else, when the white banks wouldn't give them a loan. Most of these churches were able to get loans from my family because they put their money together and lent them. So I don't deny that. I stand by and embrace it. And today, like I told you about the buildings on 121st Street, off between Allen Clayton Powell and Frederick Douglass, well, you know what? I went in there and volunteered and educated them on how to successfully manage their buildings so that they could retain ownership up to today. So I don't hide from it. I embrace it. I am proud of my family. And I want the rest of my families in Harlem to be proud of what they're doing also. But if we don't stop believing the white man's hype about being a real estate owner, then we are going to give away our communities, because the only way you're going to retain your community is for some blacks to own it. Don't kid yourself about that. So don't ever let anybody come up to you and talk about real estate ownership is a bad thing, because it's not. It's damn good. It's how you're going to stay here. It's how you're going to keep your community. It's how you're going to raise the economic base of it. It's how you're going to educate your kids. It's how you're going to send them to college. That's what owning real estate is about. And most blacks own small buildings like I do. We don't have big buildings. And you don't see me all over in the paper and the courts and everything like that. And I am honest. If somebody owes me, I want the money. Black owners in Harlem get the lowest. They talk about high rents. Black owners don't get no $5,000 a month rent. I can tell you that. Not in our small buildings, we're not getting, but we still got to pay the high interest on the mortgage. We got to pay real estate taxes. We got to pay water. We got to pay maintenance. We got to pay all of that. We got to have insurances. And it comes from the rents. And I know black owners that wouldn't get a job trying to keep buildings black owned and black occupied.
All right. Okay. So this will be the last formal question before we allow both of you to wrap up. And again, this is a question from the audience. It is, can you both say something about the other? And I'll start with you guys.
I mean, where did that question come from? Oh, man.
Remember what your mother told
Is this the... She said, remember what my mama taught me. Listen, my mother taught me this. She said they need you to participate in whatever it is they're trying to do. Do not participate. Refuse. I think it is a wonderful person that we have in the State Assembly.
Absolutely.
And I gotta tell you this, even though Al Teller is not here, he's also a wonderful person that we have in the State Assembly. We need to create the A-team. Some of y'all might not know what the A-team is. I used to watch Mr. T and all those rope chains on and all of that. When they called the A-team, things got done. What is the A-team? The A-team is allowing for the power, because what Assemblywoman Dickens has talked about just now in terms of home ownership and things like that. A lot of us don't own. A lot of us are trying to figure out how can we pay our rent
Come on now.
and pay for food for our families. And the rents are going up and up and up. And a lot of us are leaving, not because we want to, because we have to.
Well,
And as part of that plan, they are betting on us to leave so that they can shift the power in politics.
That's right.
To go into the hands of the people who want this land that we built up. And so I applaud the work that our Assemblywoman and our Assemblymen are doing in Albany.
in Albany.
Like I said, their seats are not up for re-election. Assemblywoman Inez Dickens has already let us know way back the reason why she was running for this seat is because she was asked because KRJ was not doing the job that she was asked to do.
All right.
And because KRJ wasn't doing that job, they was asking her to come back. KRJ is not going to be in the office come next year. So we can keep our great Assemblywoman in the Assembly, great Assemblyman in the Assembly, and bring me in as a part of the A-team to do the great work that's necessary to push things forward.
All right. Assemblywoman, something nice to say about Dr. Swan.
Now, really, my partner here, was that his speech about me, or was that his closing statement? I got a question. But, you know, Yusef Salam has been through an awful situation. There's no doubt about it. He was taken from his home, from his mother, and jailed falsely. Falsely. And that's a horrible situation. But you know, many of you sitting out the audience, you've got people in your family that you know, your neighbors that have been falsely accused and arrested, and they were not exonerated. They served their time, and they never got millions of dollars. They they served their time, and they had to come back to the same situation. So I commend him. I don't know, I mean, I heard a question about his doctorate. I don't know anything about that. I call him Dr. Salam out of respect because that's how I was introduced to him. That's all I've got to say on that. But the truth of the matter is that I am actually proud of him. And that's why it's nothing, I'm not talking bad about him. I'm talking about my record.
Okay.
I can only talk about me.
Okay.
I don't want to talk negatively about him. Because he's his mother's son also.
That's right.
Just like I'm my father's daughter.
That's right.
So I'm not going to disrespect him as a black man, because black men and women get disrespected enough.
Absolutely.
We don't need to do it to each other. Other people do it for us. So I don't have anything bad to say. But I want to say is that I'm talking about experience and my record and what I can do in the city council, which is critical. What Yusef talks about, and he has supreme knowledge about it, is about the criminal justice reforms. All of that is state. It is not city. But I can rock your world with city. And so that's where I can serve my community the best, is in the city council. Now, you know, Yusef talks about an 18. Well, you know, I had an 18. I had an 18 because on the federal level, I had Congressman Charles Rangel for my representative in the House. I had Assemblymember Keith Wright in the state. And then there was me. And so I thank my 18. And that means I've got to continue to have what is called the 18, but you got to have knowledge and experience to have an 18. 18 don't come about with the lack of knowledge. Thank you.
All right. All right. So, as both of you said, in a way, you had a little bit of your closing statements. So again, as we close out, Dr. Salam, you can go first. She was just a very brief closing statement.
Listen, this has been a very spirited, very lovely evening. I got to tell you, as I was preparing for this, I think we had a really wonderful time. The community got an opportunity to see what they have been calling a newcomer to the race.
That's right.
Newcomer because this is not politics as usual. I'm not a career politician. What I do know is this: we need change. And I know that has been echoed and echoed and echoed, and we thought we had that with KRJ. The fact of the matter is that we need somebody who's going to show up, who's going to be able to talk across the aisle to other folks in other places. And that might not necessarily be just peer-to-peer. But that may mean I need to talk to people in the judicial system and in the court systems to figure out how we can give our people a second chance. Because just like Keith Wright's father, Cut 'em Loose Bruce, Judge Bruce Wright, he gave people a second chance because he looked at their humanity and ensured they had a fighting chance for their futures. We don't need politics. And I'm not suggesting that that's what we have. What I am suggesting is that the righteous actors that are in the positions of power that they hold, we need to hold those ropes. And we need to bring people who are concerned about the community in to do the job of invigorating the next generations to figure out ways forward.
That's right.
What you see in me is what you will always see.
That's right.
A person who is in the community, who was raised by the community, who is a son of Harlem, and a son of my mom. She taught me right, and what you see is that I'm doing the work of putting the pattern that she taught me right out here in our whole community. Because that's what we need. They have divided us and put us in survival mode. We're concerned about the rats. We're concerned about the trash.
Come on, Jesus.
We're concerned about the streets. We're concerned about housing. We're concerned about education. Why are we concerned about this? Because we pay our taxes and our tax dollars are not representing us. And it's not representing us because the leadership that we currently have has to change by people who really are concerned and will not leave you by the wayside. All right, thank you.
Harlem is in a crisis, there's no doubt about it. And that's because of what has occurred throughout the ages, not just in the last few years. Let's be honest about it. But that means we must choose wisely. We must choose the electeds that represent our needs, but has the capability and the knowledge and the background and the ability to do what is done in the city council, because that's crucial to a community. Unlike the state and the federal, where you do it statewide and where you do it federally, it's done throughout the country and actually the world. City council is real local. We cannot afford to go by celebrity status or lack of information. We've got to go and decide on what we really know we must do. And we've tried an experience. We did that 2 years ago. And we failed miserably and got nothing for Harlem. We didn't get funding, we didn't get legislation, we didn't get shovels in the ground for housing either. And we got to remember, this is a 2-year term. This is not a 4-year term. This is a 2-year term. And that learning curve is at least 2 or more years. So Harlem has to choose wisely. And that's why people did ask me to run, because they decided with a short term they could not afford to choose unwisely once more again. And so I ask you to continue to support me. Return me to the city council, where I have a proven track record in what I've done. Not what I promised to do, not a commitment about new eyes. It's about what I have done, and you know my fighting spirit. I go down there, I start out soft, but I threaten them with a wave of Harlem to come down if they don't do what Harlem needs. And that's my force. It's you. I was born and raised in Harlem, but you know what? All of Harlem was my mother. All of Harlem was apparent to me. I was raised by my father, and my sister is here. Where's Dolores? Stand up. She raised me. She started my education. She fought for me, and I'm proud of her. And I thank her, because what I am today is made up of a mixture of my sister's teaching, my family's teaching, and Harlem's education in what we needed to do. So vote Inez Dickens #1. Vote 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 Dickens #1. Thank you, Harlem. Stay safe, and God bless you.
All right. We want to thank,
Can I just say one thing? Just one quick thing. It's not
quick.
It's not going to be long. For you who support Inez Dickens, most certainly vote her #1.
In Albany.
And vote me #2 for you who support Inez Dickens. But for you who support me, vote me #1.
all right. Let's give a big Harlem House of Justice thank you to both of the candidates. Wait, hold on.
Our Assemblywoman, Inez Dickens, is asking for my endorsement. My endorsement for #2. I gotta tell you, I am still considering all my options.
All right. Again, let's give a big welcome, big thank you. We also want to thank our questioners, Derek Perkins, our crisis director, Dr. Byrd, our New York operations, and Dawn Jones, the head of our political action committee. Again, want to thank Congressman Rangel for being with us, and we had the family of Governor Patterson here. Dan Patterson is with us. We want to thank him. We want to thank all of you for being out, and make sure you go and vote. Early voting starts in a All right, well, they're taking pictures once again. It's about voting. We want to make sure that